Won't you pray with me? May the words of my mouth and the meditations of all of our hearts this morning find their way into the heart of God. Amen. What does it mean to be blessed? Let's begin with a story from Rachel Naomi Remen. Rachel Naomi Remen is a physician and a theologian of her own sort, and wrote a book called My Grandfather's Blessings. It's one of my favorite books to read. Each chapter is a gem, and this is a chapter from this book. On Friday afternoon, when I would arrive at my grandfather's house after school, the tea would be already set on the kitchen table. He would put a cube of sugar between his teeth and then drink the hot tea straight from the glass. So would I. I much preferred drinking tea this way to the way I had to drink tea at home. If it was Friday, after we had finished our tea, my grandfather would set 2 candles on the table and light them. Then he would have a word with God in Hebrew. Sometimes he would speak out loud, but often he would close his eyes and be quiet. I knew then that he was talking to God in his heart. I would sit and wait patiently because the best part of the week was coming. When Grandpa finished talking to God, he would turn to me and say, "Come, Neshama le." Then I would stand in front of him and he would rest his hands lightly on top of my head. He would begin by thanking God for me and for making him my grandpa. He would specifically mention my struggles during that week and tell God something about me that was true. Each week I would wait to find out what that was. If I had made mistakes during the week, he would mention my honesty in telling the truth. If I had failed, he would appreciate how hard I had tried. If I had slept for even a short nap without my nightlight, he would celebrate my bravery in sleeping in the dark. Then he would give me his blessing and ask the long-ago women I knew from his many stories, Sarah and Rachel, Rebecca and Leah, to watch over me. These few moments were the only time in my week that I felt completely safe and at rest. My family of physicians and health professionals were always struggling to learn more and to be more. It seemed there was always more to know. It was never enough. If I brought home a 98 on a test, my father would ask, "And what happened to the other 2 points?" I pursued those 2 points relentlessly through my childhood. But my grandfather did not care about such things. For him, I was already enough. And somehow when I was with him, I knew with absolute certainty that this was so. My grandfather died when I was 7 years old. I had never lived in a world without him in it before, and it was hard for me. He had looked at me as no one else had and called me by a special name, Neshama le, which means little beloved soul. There was no one left to call me this anymore. At first, I was afraid that without him to see me and tell God who I was, I might disappear. But slowly, over time, I came to understand that in some mysterious way, I had learned to see myself through his eyes, and that once blessed, we are forever blessed. Many years later, when in her extreme old age, my mother surprisingly began to light candles and talk to God herself, I told her about these blessings and what they had meant to me. She had smiled at me sadly and said, "I have blessed you every day of your life, Rachel. I just never had the wisdom to do it out loud." Once blessed, forever blessed. Our text from Matthew that Don read today is the first part of Jesus' Sermon on the Mount. We call this list the Beatitudes, and a beatitude, of course, is a blessing or an announcement of God's favor. In our biblical tradition, Beatitudes are found in a couple places. They're found in the Psalms, and in other wisdom literature in the Bible, they sound like, "Happy are those who," or how fortunate are those who. So in short, a beatitude is really congratulations about what is. When Jesus gathers his disciples around him, he begins by telling them what they have already been given. You are blessed, he says. It's just simply a pronouncement of the way it is. If we didn't already know, but were asked to guess the kind of people Jesus would pick out for special commendation, we might be tempted to guess one sort or another of spiritual hero, folks with impeccable credentials morally or spiritually or humanly in every which way. But if so, we would be wrong. Maybe those aren't the ones he picked out because he felt they didn't need a shot in the arm this commendation would surely give them. Maybe they're not the ones he picked out because he didn't happen to know anybody like that. But be it as it may, it's worth noting who he did pick out. The Lutheran pastor Nadia Bolz-Weber says it this way: I like to imagine Jesus here standing among us saying, "Blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Blessed are the meek, for they shall inherit the earth. Blessed are those who no one else notices, the kids who sit alone at middle school lunch tables, the laundry guys at the hospital, the sex workers and the night shift street sweepers. Blessed are the losers and the babies and the parts of ourselves that are so, so small, the parts of ourselves that don't want to make eye contact with a world that only loves winners. Blessed are the merciful, for they will receive mercy. Blessed are the burnt-out social workers and the overworked teachers and the pro bono case takers. Blessed are those who fight the fires as the smoke destroys their lungs. And we think of all those in Australia still. Blessed are the kids who step between the parents as they fight. And blessed are the parents fighting. In pop culture and in some stripes of Christianity, we hear about being blessed as if it's a reward. If you're blessed, you know it because you are prosperous, or your family sticks together and looks beautiful, or you have perfect health or just the right sofa, and you have obvious abundance. But these gifts no more show the favor of God than to say that those who are sick, or those who have no rain on their crops, or those who lost their wealth gambling, those whom misfortune has visited, these are not blessed people. These people lose out. The prosperity gospel is definitely not what Jesus was talking about. With the Beatitudes, Jesus utterly disrupts this line of thinking that only the lucky are blessed. Being blessed is not a reward for a job well done or for the accident of being born into fortunate circumstances. It is also not an end goal, a prize to display, or a static state. It implies an ability to be in the ongoing process of recognizing and receiving and responding. To be blessed, then, is to enter into a deep attentiveness where there is room to cultivate acts of mercy, of compassion, of solidarity, and of love. You, First Church, from everyone down here to that little one up there. Chloe, is that you? Chloe, hello. You are a blessing. You are a blessing far and wide. You are a blessing to everyone, to one another, and also especially to me. Ever since deciding to leave my position here in Sterling, I have been reflecting on all the ways that you have blessed me over the last 2 years. We've walked together through delights and challenges, working together, playing together, sharing what's on all our hearts, telling our stories, baptizing our children together. Being among you feels like standing with a grandfather's hand upon my head. you have given me so much more than you may know. The list is immeasurable, really. It begins with accepting me, flaws and all, for who I am, challenging me with kindness and respect to become a better human being and a better pastor. One of you once told me, "We don't want a perfect you, we want the real you," which is good, because I didn't make you sit down for the prayer of the part where we confess and then stand for the words of assurance. I'm a doofus all the time. So we want the real you is a mantra I just keep telling to myself because I need it. Maybe you need it too, and it's yours for the keeping if you want it. I have treasured the relationships that we've built individually and in all sorts of group settings. You have trusted me with your stories, your struggles, and your dreams. I could never thank you enough for loving me and for letting me love you. But this is just really who you are as a congregation. And I'll say that this is true, not every congregation is this way. It is your greatest strength, I think, loving people. The handmade cards that you send, the Facebook notes of support, the warmest hugs as we pass the peace, the laughter over dinner prep at Eat, Pray, Learn, every single Super Bowl box lunch that you guys prepped to make money to support the La Romana mission trip. On my first Sunday here, Cameron Bass, I'll never forget it, started at the back, and he stuck his arms up before even starting his big old run, but he ran up. I felt, like I was the prodigal son or something. He rushed up to me, and he wrapped his arms around me in a really tight hug. And I thought, what did I do to deserve this? And then I realized, oh wait, that's not how it works. I did nothing. He didn't even know me yet. He just has a big open-hearted self. He was a boy raised by loving people, and he was a boy raised here. And he has not been told to keep his caring under wraps. And why should he? Why should any of us? So that morning I was the recipient of his love spilling out all around him. Blessed, just like that, for showing up here, and he did that, filling me up to the brim so that I had more and extra to give. Maybe it's that way for you too sometimes, when you come in the door and leave with more to share after. You might not think of yourselves as all mushy and lovey like that, but being a blessing, of course, looks different on different folks. I've been thinking about the unique qualities of who you are as a congregation. When I think of the descriptor salt of the earth, this is the congregation that comes to mind. You are the ones who lug an actual heavy wooden cross up the hill to set up for the Easter sunrise service, which you can't actually attend because you need to feed the animals before the next service at 10 a.m. and somehow get showered for that too. You are the ones who bring the teenagers with you to clean the church kitchen and scrub 38 tables just to make it good for the next people who need a table. You are the quiet person behind the scenes who makes handmade art for the Spirit Play boxes. You show up and you scrub the cubbies and you fix the bulletin boards and you offer to help me when I'm scrambling just because you see I look panicked, and you don't ask anything and you don't need to be thanked, but you just do it because I need you and you know it. You are a fiercely hardworking, collaborative crew. You see yourselves as part of a team, the living entity of positive force that is this church. You're determined no matter what to do the next right thing. Some lead and others follow, and you do it together. And so many places push leadership and forget to encourage us all to be good followers, and this church is truly made of both. You can't imagine, unless perhaps you are new or new-ish here, what it feels like to have been invited in to this way of life from the very first day. I will forever be a better person for having shared a ministry here with Pastor Robin, Pastor Mark, all of the staff who are here. From the first time I heard Robin say, "I'm one of the pastors at First Church," and because, well, I'm pretty sure that this is true, that we have never before had two full-time pastors serving here at the same time. You can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think it's a first. I have felt so proud and humbled to be a part of that experiment of shared ministry. I hope that that can continue. Robin is a truly good leader, and working here as her colleague and friend has been so good. She makes me a better person. She leads by example. She shows her vulnerability, her kindness, her devotion, and her joy. Being around her makes me happy, and it makes me want to be a blessing. And maybe you feel that way too. We do have this odd habit, I should mention in case it rubs off on you. We match in pulpit robes, but underneath, we're often horrified / it's kind of funny to discover we're wearing the same green dress with a white sweater. Like Sunday after Sunday, we show up in the same clothes, which we did not plan. One maternity dress was even from her, so I think she makes me a better dresser too. You are the religious community in which I have come to experience the truth about prayer. The truth isn't that just because we pray for it, we get it. That's not it. The truth is that God doesn't ask anything fancy from us, and especially not in our prayers. Here in Sterling, you don't just talk about prayer. You close your eyes and you really feel what must be felt. I remember one Sunday when the kids were up here in worship during prayers of the people, one boy stood up and he told us about the loss of his grandfather. It had happened more than a year earlier, but the pain was tangible. Tears poured down his face as he spoke. And no one laughed. No one later said he was cute. There was a deep quiet in the room after he finished. We were right there with him in it, feeling as he felt, broken-hearted, but in the company of beloveds. You are a praying people. It is one of your greatest strengths. Though the American dream narrative teaches that if we work hard enough, we can make it, we know that sometimes that just isn't true. Society isn't equitable. It's the raving opposite. And yet from you, I've learned that organizing is the antidote to despair. Community lunches, ministry leadership teams that get the job done, comprehensive sexuality classes for middle school and high school students, because that incredibly important life-saving information just isn't taught in schools around here. The wish tree that the confirmation class put in the vestibule, and we were able to bring presents to kids in foster care. Singing in nursing homes at Christmas. Every single Eat, Pray, Learn that gives us all chances to reach across the aisle and shake hands despite our differences. You put love in action. You bring hope. You ask for prayers. You lean in. You pray hard for each other, with each other, and you mean it. You make of yourselves a blessing. Perhaps you too have a dream you've wanted since forever. And maybe you've worked at it, prayed for it, gotten all your friends on board, spent every penny. I want your dream for you, just as you backed me a year ago when, after 7 years of trying to conceive, Jessie came into the world. I didn't deserve the gift of my child or of any of you, and I hope never ever to forget that. Your existence alone is a blessing. The word goodbye itself has been spoken since the 16th century. It comes from the Old English God boy, which is a contraction of God be with ye. And as I prepare to tell you goodbye at the end of this month, the root of it then, as I see it, is God be with ye. And it is that I will always be cheering you on. You too, First Church, know how to show up and hold fast and pray hard. You know how to build trust and stay humble and put love in action. I will always be cheering for you, wanting big things for you, and I will forever be proud to have been one of the First Church in Sterling team. A blessing isn't something that only some of us get. It is our own awareness of something we appreciate very much. You, First Church friends, are a blessing to me. You are a blessing, period. May it be so. Amen.